Hello, fellow seekers. I hope everyone is doing well and having a great week so far. We are back on the Hannah Payne case trial. We are still on day 4. This is the day that Hannah will take the witness stand and testify. And whether we'll make it on this day or not, it's a long day, but it'll be in parts, so we'll see how it goes. Right now, the prosecution is going to replay the 911 calls made by Hannah and the other 2 witnesses that made them because they were able to make it easier to hear. So they're able to re-enter that evidence in for the jury as Judge Scott had ruled, even though Attorney Smarmy over there was trying to talk about the mysterious gap, as he would say. But I'm sure it's going to be interesting. So we're going to listen to this, the tapes or the recordings, whatever. And then I believe after that, the prosecution will be finished or they will rest. And then we'll see if Attorney Smarmy, a.k.a. Tucker, will have any other witnesses other than Hannah herself. So let's go on and get going with it.
Okay, thank you. Is there an objection?
I would raise the objection we had at the bench, but understanding.
Yeah, you raised it and you got...
has ruled and has allowed the state to republish.
Here we go. Let's see if we can hear him better, hopefully.
Hey, we have an accident up here like Farmtown and Forest Parkway, Farmtown and Forest Parkway. It's a truck, unfortunately,
That's like the first
and I'm
accident.
looking at the guy now, he's pretty good, he's moving and everything. But we got a truck that's had an incident with a vehicle. Farmtown and Forest Parkway.
What kind of truck is it?
It's interesting to watch her expression. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt while they're talking. I was just saying it's interesting to watch her expression. It looks like she's in such pain. And I'm thinking, I'm sure she is, but can you imagine the pain the family is in? I was just looking, I was trying to look back on the names of the people. I know one of them was the, he worked in the infirmary, and he was the one, he was a pretty good witness because he noticed that he felt like Mr. Herring was having some sort of medical emergency, like a diabetic, diabetic coma or something like that. And was it, now I can't find his name. Oh my goodness. But Cameron Williams was the fellow who was the eyewitness guy, which was good. And then there was a younger lady, the young lady who had witnessed it. But anyhow, I'll continue playing.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, does it say that you want her to insert?
But do you need assistance? You got an ambulance? Sir. Yes, sir, it's okay. You need an ambulance? He's not very good. So you okay? No.
Okay, if you say that you need assistance, you need an ambulance or no?
All right. Sir, do you need assistance? You need an ambulance, okay? Well, I mean, you with this, are you okay?
We have solutions around, but then
Yes, I know where. I'm a state officer. I work for GDC. So, yeah, that's 540.
is any airbags
Yes,
deployed?
sir. No, man, I'm talking to the gentleman who's at Tractor Trailer Park. And he was, the car working in. You know, they know what happened. He fell asleep. So you need to be into that. Don't start it, because you're smoking. Sir, just stop, right there, right there.
Are they searching the roadway?
I saw someone, I saw the car coming. So you need to stop. And then I see the light was green. Yes, you had a break.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
I will send that, okay?
Yes, ma'am, what apologize for that?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Clinton County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
Clark Howell and Forest Parkway. We had a call earlier, and it's been over like 20 minutes now, and no police or no ambulance has shown up at this location. And like I said, it's the ball of Red Dakota and a semi-tractor truck, and none has showed up at this moment in time.
Okay, I just took a call. We already have someone on the way.
The reason why I'm asking that is because the driver who caused the accident, I think he's impaired. Something's going on with him. And so the thing about we're trying to tell him to turn his vehicle off from the smoke, and he's not following the command. So that's why I'm asking to see what if he's moving his vehicle. He's going to drive off, man. He's driving off. Take a picture of the driver light. Take a picture quick. He's driving off.
Where's he going towards?
Yeah, he's heading towards Riverdale Road, Upper Riverdale Road. That's where he's headed.
What kind of vehicle is it? Is that
He's in
the
the
Red
Red
Dakota?
Dakota. Get out the road, sir. Get out the road. Hurry up.
What's the tag number?
Red Dakota, front end damage to his Red Dakota. Did you get a picture of the driver light? That's tag. Oh man, let's get out the road. He's headed towards Riverdale Road, heading towards 285 area. Riverdale Road. He's heading west on Forest Parkway towards the area.
Give me one
Okay, good. Go. He's gone. Now the other driver who was she's going to take a picture of the vehicle. Yeah, he's fled. He's an African American. Two vehicles. His vehicle and the truck. The truck is still here. The driver of the truck is still here. And so step out the road. Just step out the road, please. So he's in a Red Dakota. It's a 96 model, give or take 97 model. He's an older black gentleman, gray hair, blue shirt on, and front end damage. Heavily front end damage in front. Heavily front end. I knew he was going to do something. If I was in uniform, I would have taken to you, but I didn't. So.
Okay.
You know, and what's interesting about that, I think he did say, go, Tianna, just meaning to get the tag number. But she took it to a whole new level, a whole new multiple levels. And just think about if she had just stayed there, how different all of this would be. It's crazy sometimes when you go back and think of those things, but I mean, it's too late now, sadly.
Excuse me. Heading towards that area. If we get police alert that way, I knew traffic. I knew there was an incident up that way. Hopefully, there's another officers on that film.
Give me one moment.
I knew it was RHA 5933. Very well. RHA 5933. RHA 5933.
I got it. Robert Henry Adams 5933.
Yes. It's okay. She got it. It's all there. Yeah. Hopefully the lady in the Jeep was almost in the residence, so she turned around and she went after him. So she's gonna take a picture of his vehicle and stuff. Can you believe it? I knew there was something wrong with this guy. I knew it. God. This is crazy. But he's not going to get far. His truck going to overheat. His truck is going to overheat. Okay, ma'am, you have my number. anything, y'all can hit me back. But I'm here with the driver
Okay.
of the truck, the semi truck, and everything. So my number, you have it.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you.
All right.
State will now republish the defendant's 911 calls, which were state's exhibits 4.
Payne County 911. What is the location of your emergency? Yes, ma'am. I'm actually on Forest Parkway and Clark Howell Highway. And there was just an accident. I'm sure they've already called, but I just witnessed it, and I just wanted to make sure that I guess called the police as well in case they didn't. All right. Were they what were the kind of vehicles involved? It's a red Dodge pickup truck. I think it's a Dakota. And a semi was involved. And the red Dakota ran the red light and slammed into the side of the semi. It doesn't look like we received any reports on it yet. I'll go ahead and put in a call here. Okay. Red Dakota, and were they on Forest Parkway or on Clark Howell? The semi and I were turning left onto Forest Parkway, and the Dakota was going west on Forest Parkway. Oh, okay. And what's your name? My name is Tianna, H-A-N-N-A-H. Last name is Payne, P-A-Y-N-E. And what's your callback number? 470-512-1847. We appreciate you calling this in. We'll get someone out there and try to assist them. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See, she could have just stopped there. She did her duty.
County 911, what's the location of your emergency? Yes, ma'am. I'm on Clark Howell and Forest Parkway, the intersection. I actually called about 20 minutes ago for an accident, and no one has shown up yet. But I am under the impression that the guy that caused the accident, who ran the red light, is drunk, and he's gotten back in his car, and he's looking like he's trying to drive away. Okay, can you get his tag number? Hold on, he's driving away. It's a red Dodge Dakota. One second, hold on.
Yep, she could have. She should have never followed him. None of us would be sitting here right now.
Okay, so he is going west, down Clark Howell, down Forest Parkway. Okay, so you couldn't get a tag number? No, but I'm catching up to him right now. Okay, ma'am, we actually do not want you to chase him. We just want you to be safe. And it's I understand. To chase him.
But do you,
I
Hannah?
understand 100%. I'm just going to get the tag number, nothing
Sure.
else. But I am going west down Forest Parkway. And we are almost up to him. I mean, his radiator is busted and everything. I honestly have no idea how he's driving the truck the way that it is. Okay. It is a Georgia tag. License plate is RHA as in apple 4859. Okay. So if you can go back to that location where the incident happened, it's because someone is actually on the way to you guys now. Okay, well, there's a police officer there, but he is drunk. I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you I'm not going to follow him because he is going to cause another accident. So I will stay behind him until an officer officer can get to us. But until then, I'm not moving.
Yeah, no, that's what I want. I want you guys to go back to the location where it happened, and an officer will be out there momentarily, okay? Ma'am.
Yeah, the operators are always saying, "Oh, what have you done?"
Ma'am.
What is she crying about? I mean, I'm sorry. I guess it was a little traumatic for her, but I think she made a horrible decision. I bet it makes the family angry to see her weeping away like that, getting distraught. I mean, because
Yes.
Ma'am, he just pulled the trigger of my gun in my hand while he was.
Ma'am, you were not supposed to follow him.
you didn't listen.
Okay, you got the tag number.
So what?
There's a police officer down the street. Tell them to come up here now. He pulled the trigger on my gun after he attacked me. Tell the police officer to turn around from the 285 exit and come up here immediately. And now he needs paramedics.
And now he needs
I'm
paramedics.
safe, but he ain't. Can you say you
I'm
what happened?
seem like I'm fine, but he ain't. Ugh. And you have to use the poor grammar along with all of that. Ugh.
Okay, ma'am, where are you guys located now? Ma'am.
I don't know. I did.
I did. Okay, there you hear it.
No, I don't.
Okay, ma'am.
There's a police officer here now.
Okay, speak with them.
All right.
The state will now republish State's Exhibit 6, which is Tianna McCraney's 911 call.
It's a
transfer. Hold on, sweetheart. Call it by Forest Parkway and Riverdale Road.
Yes. I got him.
Okay.
She
Hello?
got him.
Hello?
Hi. I'm sorry. I'm on the intersection of Phoenix Boulevard and Riverdale, right before the highway. Is this woman? Okay. So, sorry. They got it was like a merging lane, and then it was a merging lane, and then she like got impatient and went around him for no reason because it was coming traffic, and then he almost hit her because he did that, so he braked suddenly, but then she got mad and hopped out her car, and then she pulled out her gun and started screaming at him, and he was like, "What the heck?" And then she was like, "I will shoot you," and she started hitting him. Yes.
Okay, now where are you guys?
We're right by the exit of 285 West and 285 North, and it's like Phoenix Boulevard goes one way.
Okay, yeah, I have somebody on the line for that. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Are you still there?
Sorry, yes, I'm still here.
Okay, you said she pulled out a gun.
Yes,
Did she shoot the gun?
we heard a gunshot, and then one guy got out of his car, and he was like, "Yo, we need an ambulance." Now I'm blocked in. The guy was like, "We need an ambulance." I don't know if she shot him or not. Sorry, dude. Well, and now, did she shot him? She shot him. What?
What type of vehicle were they in?
She's getting locked up. He was in like a. Hold on. Let me tell. It's like a brown pickup. It's a small Dakota.
Okay.
And she's in a Jeep.
Okay, we have someone in with us, okay?
They're there already. But okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Excuse me.
That is all we have here. Okay.
Thank you. Does the state have any other witnesses that it intends to call?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Okay. Okay, so the state has rested, meaning that all the evidence that they intend to adduce in this case has been presented to you at this time. And so there are things that I need to take up with defense counsel and the state at this time. And so I'm going to excuse you at this time. I think it's an appropriate time to take a lunch break. It is now approximately 11:40. I'm going to give an extended lunch because there are things that the court has to do with both the state and defense attorney at this time. And so I'm going to instruct you to be back at 1:45 this afternoon. So you're excused. Have a good lunch.
Do you think Hannah and attorney Tucker, aka Smarmy, go break bread together during lunch and continue to plan their strategy? What kind of BS is he going to be talking about?
Request a lot of motions over here. Haven't heard that. You may take a brief 3-4 minute break.
And we can, Attorney Tucker, but I think that any motion you're going to make, you would probably just make now and then we'll take a break. Because I don't expect that your motion will be extended.
You said. Join me in the motion.
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would make a motion for directed verdict based on the facts that have been presented here, based on the evidence that we've heard so far. I would, and I'll go through each charge one at a time and make my review. That's okay with the court.
Okay.
What's he going to do now?
At this time, Your Honor, I would make a motion to direct the verdict that the state does not carry the heavy burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense malice murder, as they stated in their allegation that Hannah Payne did on May 7, 2019, with malice aforethought, caused the death of Kenneth Herring, a human being, by shooting him with a firearm. The evidence we've heard are contradicting testimony of what's going on. We've heard one witness say that she came out and held him at gunpoint. We had one witness come out, say she jumped in the window. We had one witness come out and say the accident happened somewhere else besides where the other two. They said that disputed testimony. Some say the gun was holstered until the car hit her car. Some say she came out with it pulled. We heard testimony from the forensic examiner who said the angle of the bullet in the entrance was a slight right to left, which the theory that was shot outside the vehicle, and we saw the video, that is not a correct account of what happened. In the video, we heard testimony saying that they were fighting over the gun, going back and forth. And then upon the gun going off, immediately she picks up the phone and requests assistance from the police and an ambulance.
I don't think that's true.
She's not a nurse, she's not a doctor, but she does the best thing she could. She explains to 911 what happened and requests assistance for him, for Mr. Herring. So in no way or form has anybody come in and proven it was malice.
Malice. Okay, we have got a afternoon shower. You can hear it hitting on the roof. I love the sound of rain, not rain, but rain. Hopefully it will not interrupt or make it difficult to hear what's going on. So we will continue on.
Of any. There was no malice, no testimony of her saying, you know what, today, this guy caused an accident, I'm going to take his life. There's no testimony, there's no evidence that even gives an inclination that that is what was going on. And even though you have people say, oh, she had no remorse or whatnot, she was still on the phone attempting to get an ambulance to come there. She stood and she
that's true.
argued or explained to the bystanders she didn't have her finger on the trigger. This was not anything that had intent. This was a situation where she got grabbed, she was being pulled, and she pulled the gun to defend, and then he grabbed it, and the gun went off. And from her, on the 911s, her statements on the 911s, that he went off based on him grabbing the gun and his finger pulling the trigger. There's no malice that has been established in any form or fashion to constitute or even prove anywhere near a reasonable doubt that she did do malice murder. And should the court see and review the testimony the way I have, then that would basically take out the malice murder and the gun charge that was with it, count 6.
Oh, come on.
Then I move to count 2, felony murder, where it says that on the 7th of May 2019, while in the commission of aggravated assault as alleged, a felony that caused the death of Kenneth Herring, a human being, the testimony was that, once again disputed, you don't know if the gun was on her hip or the gun was pulled or what to believe, but based on the video and the testimony from Mr. Williams, who had the video, who the video kind of corroborated exactly what he said, that the gun was never pulled until after the struggle was ensuing, and that the individual other accounts were that the vehicle had stopped and not hit her vehicle, but then did accelerate and hit her vehicle. And no one was able to give an account of the position of her, whether she was on the side of the car, whether she was on front of the car. We did hear somebody say it was like an inch, but anybody who would say it was like an inch would have said the car's hit. So I'm not sure how we can use the weight of that testimony because it doesn't appear to be possible or logical. The gun was not pulled until after she is screaming stop. They're going back and forth, the struggle. You saw pictures of her shirt ripped. You saw the pictures of the scratches all on her neck, her arms. You saw the swollen wrist. All of these show that there was a struggle ensued. And the testimony, they said that she was hitting him or punching him. There were no bruises, from the forensic examiner, she said there were no bruises or contusions or anything on his body except for a pin-sized bruise on his left shoulder where the seatbelt would go. But it was not the size of a seatbelt, but a pin top size. Therefore, to pull the gun, she had to use for self-defense as he was continuously grabbing, pulling, and revving up his car and driving. And in the 911 tape, at one point she starts screaming, you hear the revving of the vehicle, which confirmed that the revving of the vehicle was to drive off or to hit, or I'm not sure what his intentions were, but from a reasonable person's view who comes up with a phone to say, here, I have the police on the phone, it's not reasonable for somebody to rev up the engine or grab her or try to ram her or her vehicle. She stated in the 911 call, he just hit my car. And luckily it was her car, and not her. So as for the aggravated assault, upon him grabbing and suing, you saw pictures that were in the truck. A lot of people didn't hear what was being said from inside the truck, but there was a lot of instruments in there that could have been used for serious, immediate bodily harm. There was a knife. There was a small saw. There were needles all over the place. All of these could have been used to cause immediate harm to my client. She was only able to pull a gun to try to deter him from continuing with the actions he was doing. And she stated she never had her finger in the trigger. Therefore, it was never an intent to pull a gun and shoot. It was for protection and to deter him from his actions there. And therefore, because the aggravated assault has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, the felony murder in count 2 should not survive the directed verdict based on the facts that it is not given rise beyond a reasonable doubt that the aggravated assault occurred in the manner it was accused to make an assault upon the person of Kenneth Herring. It was pulled as protection and to deter him from continuing his actions that he had continuously did, even though you heard her screaming, stop, stop, stop. And therefore, if the court sees it, and I presume they will, sees count 2 and count 3 would be resolved with the directed verdict, and that would take out count 7 of the commission of the possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. And I would bring the court's attention to count 4, where they said the felony murder with the underlining felony being false imprisonment. The state has put testimony up there that said the car was going, she pulled in, you saw the angle. 2 of them said that they did not, it stopped in front of them, that he had space. One says like an inch, one says not sure how much the space is, one didn't really have an angle to see it. But they all confirmed that there was not a collision, that the car was there. And as we saw from the pictures that were tendered, there was plenty of room to move or to go to one side or the other. The guy that was filming it was driving right there beside it. Should Mr. Herring have wanted to move or not participate in what was going on, he could have easily driven out, backed up, after hitting the car, backed up and drove off. And once again, the presumption is that he had the ability to do that, and it was not that the car stopped him from doing that, that his truck was leaking radiator fluid, that the truck was badly damaged. And you heard the testimony from the state officer saying, this car ain't going far. It's smoking and it's leaking fluid. That engine's going to stop soon enough. We haven't heard any testimony from the state to say that the vehicle was operational. That after the event, when they came to get the vehicle, that it was able to drive. So, him being in that position was at his own actions. He drove forward and hit the vehicle. Now, could he have driven off? From the testimony, from the views and the pictures, it appears so. But if the vehicle was not properly running at that time, based on the damage, based on the loss of radiator fluid, based on a lot of factors, that is why he was there. Not because of a car pulling in front of him. With that being said, he had the door locked, or it appeared the door was locked, so nobody could get into the vehicle. That is another reason that he was not able to get out, because he had his window down and the door appeared to be locked or damaged, so it was unable to be opened. All of these do not give rise to beyond a reasonable doubt. There are many theories that can be put on out there, but evidence has not been presented to confirm one way or the other. Evidence wasn't even presented to talk about the vehicle, and was it operational after he accelerated and hit Miss Payne's car. So to try to categorize Miss Payne as the proximate cause of why he was there in the state he was, or why the vehicle was unable to move, or why he was unable to move, is not at the hands of Miss Payne. It's the hands of him and that vehicle and his actions. He had reasonable means of escape. He could have just backed up and pulled off. He didn't have to ram her car. He didn't have to accelerate forward.
Please.
You saw the video driving down right to the left, and that car kept moving. Did not appear to be, any kind of traffic or anything impeding him from driving slowly by and watching it. As you look to the right side in one of the pictures, he didn't even have to go on the sidewalk. He could have scooted around her without even going on the sidewalk. No one said there was something on the sidewalk that was stopping him or impeding him from going that angle and moving on. So to say that she caused false imprisonment or as the cause of that has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, not through the evidence that we've heard so far. And because they have not proven that felony, it would not give rise to felony murder, because the underlying felony of false imprisonment has not been proven. There's numerous theories out there. There's numerous things that occurred that were not even touched or addressed. And therefore, because false imprisonment was not done by Miss Payne, then count 4 should fail, because it does not give rise to the felony that would justify the felony murder, which would take out count 8, the possession of the firearm during the commission of a felony. Therefore, based on all the evidence we've heard so far, the testimonies and the lack of testimony to explain, the state has not carried their burden beyond a reasonable doubt to prove any of these 8 cases. And I respectfully request this court to grant my directed verdict motion. Thank you.
The state's response.
Judge, as you're aware, the standard is whether or not there is sufficient evidence for a jury to decide the case and the charges, and you have to view the light and the evidence in the light most favorable to the state. As it relates to malice and malice murder, as the jury charges that we have provided and that defense has provided, malice is not ill will or hatred. It is basically the intent to kill, and it can be formed in a moment. And I think that the evidence that has been provided regarding this defendant's demeanor and her conduct, including her own words on the 911 call, where she is cursing, screaming, telling the victim, "I will shoot you," which is basically her stating her specific intent to kill. And all of the witnesses who indicated that she was striking the victim. And then her own statement, basically, when she tells us all why she killed him, because he hit her car. And so the state has provided sufficient evidence for the jury to consider malice murder in this particular case based on all of the facts and circumstances that have been provided. As it relates to felony murder, aggravated assault, the uncontroverted evidence is that the defendant had a firearm, which is a deadly weapon per se.
Yeah, that's pretty big right there.
And that the victim, as testified to by the witnesses, was placed in a reasonable apprehension of receiving a violent injury. All the witnesses indicated he looked shocked and confused and that would be consistent with someone who is placed in a reasonable apprehension of receiving a bodily injury. Therefore, felony murder based on aggravated assault and the aggravated assault have been met. As it relates to the false imprisonment, the only thing that is required for the state to prove is that the defendant, as noted in the indictment, detained the victim without lawful authority. There is absolutely no evidence that she had any lawful authority to do any of this. And all of the witnesses described that the victim was cornered, that she trapped him, that she maneuvered to block him. The fact that he could have tried to figure out a way to back around all the cars and drive on the sidewalk does not create
Yeah,
the
the
fact,
sidewalk
does not negate
theory.
the fact that he was detained by this defendant. The photographs, most of them, depict circumstances that existed once all of the cars were removed. That was the evidence from the witnesses in this case, certainly from Sergeant Ritchie, who indicated that those photographs were taken much later. So the traffic circumstances are more reflected in the video, and the fact that their vehicles are touching. Her wheels are clearly turned in order to block him in order to detain him in all of the photographs. He has nowhere to go. So he is detained as intended by the statute for false imprisonment, and therefore the false imprisonment and the felony murder associated with that, there is sufficient evidence for those to go to the jury. And in fact, Judge, all of the evidence is she's standing, even though she's telling him to get out of the car, she's basically standing there. She's right at his driver's side door, and she's holding a gun to him. So his choices are try to drive back up or try to get around her car even though it's blocking him in, or drive another way when there's a gun there. So he is very clearly detained, and we would ask that you deny the directed verdict on that as well, and as it relates to all of the gun charges that support that. I think the only other indication is a conversation about who pulled the trigger, and Judge, the state tendered I believe the state's exhibit number 22, if I may retrieve it.
Yes.
Which reflects her finger on the trigger very clearly. Even aside from that, the state's contention is that once the defendant is the aggressor, which is exactly how she has been described, what's in the victim's vehicle, his conduct, how he drove toward her vehicle, which again, you saw photos of the damage, a term that I use loosely, based on smudges, 2 smudges on her tire and her, I guess that's the wheel wall fender. There is no evidence that this victim made any attempt to ram her or run her over.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
indication is, as from all of the witnesses, were asked her demeanor. Aggressive, very aggressive. Once she is noted as the initial aggressor, as the aggressor on scene, nothing that Mr. Herring did is relevant. She can talk about it, but it's really not relevant to her defense because she is no longer eligible to claim self-defense once she is the aggressor. And that is in the jury charge, the pattern jury charge. that the initial aggressor cannot claim self-defense. They cannot use self-defense. So we believe that the evidence in this case is more than sufficient to allow the jury to deliberate and to reach a verdict on each and every charge listed in the indictment.
So the court, having heard arguments from defense counsel as well as from the state, has determined that there is sufficient evidence for the case to be released to the jury and for them to deliberate and decide the case. The jury can view the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, and so the case will be released to the jury on all the counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Can you clarify, you just said the evidence would be released to the jury and most favorable to the state. Is that your decision, or?
My decision is to deny the motion for directed verdict, and because the court has determined that there's sufficient evidence for the case to be released to the jury to be deliberated upon and for them to decide the case on all the counts 1 through 8.
But there still is a presumption of innocence that goes with my client when it's released to the jurors, correct?
I have said nothing that would indicate anything different. Attorney Tucker.
I thought I heard.
Okay. All right. So before we broke on Friday evening, I did talk to Miss Payne directly about whether or not she was going to decide to testify or not to testify, and sort of gave the weekend for consideration. Has the defendant made a decision?
Your Honor, we're right there. I believe if we get a break for lunch, we can come back for lunch, we could stay. I did have other witnesses that I have subpoenaed. I want to make sure that they are here. And based on that, I can make a definite decision whether she will testify or not. But if we just have lunch to go over what we've heard today and what we've discussed, we'll be ready to make that announcement afterwards.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Tucker. Anything further from the state?
Nothing from the state.
Okay. All right. So it's 12. I did instruct the jury to be back by 1:45. The court has to go through the jury charges. But it is my understanding that the defense will be adducing evidence.
I've got to make sure that my witnesses are present and that my client.
What witnesses does he have?
Brought out. I just want to make sure the witnesses are here or available, and then I'll discuss with my client.
Okay. All right. So at some point, I
Let's
do
see
want
what
to
he has.
review the jury charges. So I will do that after your decision, whether you're going to present evidence or not. And if you are, I'll allow you to do that, and then we can release the jurors and do our jury charges.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So court stands adjourned until 1:45 p.m.
I don't think he has any other witnesses than Hannah. I think he's making stuff up, or maybe he thought he did it one time. I don't know. Well, we'll find out when they get back from their lunch. Okay, I think I have it to where they are now back from lunch, but I just found that whole thing before interesting about Attorney Tucker getting up and trying to have all that stuff not available for the jury to deliberate on or with. And of course, Judge Scott ruled against it because, I mean, you know, as the prosecution said, Hannah is the aggressor. And I don't know, you all can tell me what you think in the comments, but, you know, when he kept saying that it was so important for Hannah to get him an ambulance, Mr. Herring, I didn't really hear, I may have heard her say, well, other than, you know, now you need an ambulance, or now you need paramedics. She might have yelled something about ambulance once, but I really did not see her from what I could see. Again, if I missed it, please let me know, because I want to be proved wrong, because I I'm going to miss things. But I didn't really see any effort. I mean, she didn't say, oh my goodness, he's injured. I didn't see any concern. He hit my Jeep. Her black and, pink and black Jeep, whatever it was. And they're just her shrill voice. I'm sorry, that just set my teeth on edge. So, that probably makes me a bit biased. But no. Or as Durrell would say, biasedness, or whatever, how he says it. But you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, okay, so, and then the attorney Tucker said he has witnesses. Not, granted, I know that she is going to, it's the big cliffhanger. Is she going to take the stand? I do know that part, and I've watched part of it, but not all of it. But I'm like thinking, did he have witnesses? I don't think he does. I'm like, is he just, let's face it, is he just shooting the shit? Well, let's find out. Let me just pipe down for a moment, and let's find out what is happening here. Let me see.
Before we broke this afternoon for lunch, counsel for defense had indicated that he would make a decision whether he was going to present any evidence. On Friday as well, I had given the defendant certain instructions as to whether or not she intended to testify. And so the court would like to determine whether a decision has been made.
Your Honor, when I went back to my office, I started calling the individuals I had seen. And one of the individuals was Tim White, which I think the court's ruling kind of did away with anything I could get from him. So I didn't further the conversations with him. The other witness was Bill Yoder, who took the photos and could come in there and testify to the photos he took, and possibly as an independent contractor saying why he took them. But I don't think that would hold the weight of having the investigator or everything else that we brought in. I think his testimony would just be delaying or furthering the case without having the substance that is necessary. That would not waste this court time or be judicially efficient. I discussed with my client the pluses and minuses of testifying. I've gone over all the evidence and the witnesses that we talked about, and I've heard two different approaches. She got very emotional, as you can see right now, and it is an emotional.
Oh gosh, I get it, but come on, to flaunt that in front of Mr. Herring's family, who will never get another anything with him, and Hannah, who she'll be probably in prison. I don't know, she might get off, but for a good part of her life, her family is still alive. There will still be Christmases, hugs, all that stuff, and it's so emotional for you. I'm sure it is. And then talking about these witnesses, he called his witness. I bet he didn't call anybody. Come on now. Oh my gosh, he's more annoying than Hannah in some ways. I guess they're a good pair. But anyhow, he is just full of air and, other stuff too. Full of air and feces. Let's just get it on with it. Okay.
Roller coaster ride she's been on. For 4 years she's had this, gotten ready a couple of times.
Yeah, and what about the family?
Her decision.
Oh, come on, they're being so dramatic about it.
She will testify, so I will present. But if we could have a moment for her to collect herself, based on our conversations, they were kind of clear-cut, kind of harsh, but the reality is this is something she had to make a decision, tough decision, and she's made it. we just give her a minute to collect herself before bringing in the jury?
I will give her an opportunity to compose herself. I am going to direct the questions again so that the defendant, Ms. Payne, will actually put on the record that this is what she wants to do. I understand you indicating that, but she has to put on the record what she wants to do.
And I appreciate that, Your Honor.
Oh dear, we can really hear her sobbing. I wonder if that has to like disturb the family. They're like, okay, you attacked our family member, yelled at him, were abusive to him. I don't know what the hell were you thinking, Hannah? Good gosh. I feel like she's only sad for her. The man behind her is going, He's shaking his head, probably thinking the same thing most of us are. I wonder what the people behind her are thinking when you love to think about what is going on in everyone's minds. I wonder what the two prosecutors are saying. You gonna nail her? That crazy bitch, as that one witness said. And let's face it, it's not far from the truth. She was acting like a crazy bitch. Excuse me. I wonder what her demeanor is like the rest of the time. Did she have a tendency to have this type of personality? I would assume so. I don't know. I guess what one thing we can say about him versus Daryl is that at least he didn't call in a bunch of useless witnesses like Daryl did.
I'm ready.
Your Honor, she said she will testify, but there will be, of course, a couple of motions we would want to approach to talk about prior to any testimony.
Okay, so let me put again on the record so that Ms. Payne can personally respond to the questions. Ms. Payne, do you understand that you have a right to testify? And if you want to testify, then no one can prevent you from doing so?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that no one can make or compel you to testify?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that not your lawyer, but you personally are the one who decides whether you will testify or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you do not testify, then upon proper request by you, the court will instruct the jury that your decision cannot be used against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you choose to testify, you will be both examined by your counsel and cross-examined by the assistant district attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you feel that you need any additional time to think about whether you want to testify or not?
I'm sorry, did you ask if I felt like I needed more time?
I did. But understand that I gave you on Friday all of the weekend to determine. Your attorney has indicated stated that you intend to testify, and I just need on the record that you will personally place on the record that you want to testify or not. So, do you personally want to testify or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, meaning?
I want to testify.
Okay, all right. Attorney Tucker, what motions do you need to make at this time?
I believe from her testimony, we will be wanting to present a video. I believe also a video was stopped with a portion that we want to be able to have the rest of that portion come in. Based on now that she's testifying, it won't be self-serving statements, it will be statements that were given at the scene. And I believe that the state will want to introduce the video or the transcripts from the interview that occurred at the police station the night of, that there was an agreement not to bring in the written portion of it. But it's kind of, if you show part of the video, I think, once again, it's cutting short, and I know why certain parts of that video should not come in, and I know we had an agreement.
Okay.
I would just like to...
So, can you stop at that point, Attorney Tucker, and counsel's approach?
Yes, you try to keep him from saying too much. Oh, goodness. Well, at least the mic is turned off and we don't have to hear her weeping, but I feel it must be hard for Mr. Herring's family to hear her. I don't know. I still, myself, being younger and older, I can't imagine wanting to try to chase down somebody like that. Especially if you weren't even involved. Now, it would be one thing if this person did something to a family member. I might be doing something stupid like that. But for this situation, which it wasn't her business at all, she wasn't even part of the first accident. And to take that much interest in being Annie Oakley or High Horse Hannah, I don't know. It ruined her and her family. Everybody's lives have been ruined. I guess that is a lot to have to. It's a burden, big burden to the shoulder, but man, yeah, look at the family. Oh, wow. It's been a long 4 years for them. and there's her family. I mean, it's hard. It's not easy for any family member. I wonder if that's her boyfriend right there who looks like he was wiping his eyes, like he'd been crying. It's a colossal shit show is all I can say. I don't know how else to say it other than that. I mean, I feel as a parent how awful this has to feel. Yeah, see, I wonder, I bet you that's her boyfriend right there who's looking like he's teared up. Her parents look exhausted, and the one behind them looks really tired. Was exercising his eyebrows or something. It's a horrible wait. But you know what? At least, I guess she was in jail some, but most of the time she was not in custody. She's been able to be at home most of this time. They must have had some sort of money to get her out, wouldn't you think? Be interesting to research her family and see what kind of means they have to be able to pay for that. So, while we're waiting, what do you think? Do you think, well, I guess we can't really say until after she testifies. I guess we'll say that. Do you think after the testimony we can say, do we think that it helped her or hurt her? Usually, probably it's best for people to say nothing, but then sometimes, I don't know. I don't know how she's going to redeem herself with that mean-looking face.
I'm going to allow the state to go ahead at this time and place on the record particular times with respect to the video that is proposed to be shown.
Judge, it's my understanding, if the defendant is choosing to testify, there are two statements that are recorded of the defendant. The first one, she is detained in the back of a patrol vehicle, still on the scene. Sergeant Marion approaches and asks if she will talk to him, and then they have a conversation about what occurred. And that is located on Sergeant Marion's body cam from minute 1740 through 2303. We would, it was not our intention to play anything in additional on Sergeant Marion's body cam because he's talking to other witnesses. If the defense wants those things in, I'll leave that to them. But that's the only part that contains a statement of the defendant. The defendant is then taken to the Clayton County Police Department where she is Mirandized and provides a Miranda waiver, and then conducts an interview with Detective Hayward, who is here to testify in rebuttal if necessary, and Detective Moore.
Look at him looking.
we were intending to start that interview at 7:37:56 because no one has come in the room yet. It's completely dark and empty. And then the defendant is sitting in the room by herself for quite some time. There's a gap there as well from 7:37:56 to 7:53:40. And the state would move that forward, but again, because she's just sitting there. However, the state is requesting to play 7:53:40 through 8:01:00 because the defendant is in the room removing her long fingernails.
Ooh, yeah,
And that
that's
is
right.
recorded.
Oh, that.
After that occurs from 8:01:00.
Do y'all remember that? They were talking about that she had, after she was arrested and while she was waiting in the room down at the police department to be interrogated, she was sitting there. They said it shows on the recording that she's pulling off all of her fake fingernails, which that's kind of interesting because, allegedly there were scratches, but were the scratches from Mr. Herring? Remember, she had the scratches. She might have scratched her own self for all we know. I don't know. But anyhow, I just wanted to point that out.
Until 8:48:30, the defendant is alone in the interview room. She moves around, she walks around, she lays her head on the table, she changes position several times, but there is nothing of evidentiary value in the defendant sitting alone in a room for 47 minutes and 30 seconds. So the state was not going to play, and we could put on the record in front of the jury that the defendant is alone and not being questioned during that time frame, so that there is no curiosity about why we're forwarding. So the state was going to forward that. There is a section where the detective begins to talk to the defendant about writing a statement, which the parties have agreed that for varying legal reasons it is not admissible. So we would redact or just move the cursor forward, and that would take out minute 9:34:00 through 9:35:20. And then we would play from 9:35:20 to 9:36:15, because that is when the detective has asked the defendant about potential injuries and she begins to point things out. So rather than stop when they first talking about writing a statement, I didn't think that was appropriate because there is something that's beneficial, or at least in their opinion, beneficial to the defendant. So play that and then stop at 9:36:15 when the detectives are getting up to go get the paper for the defendant to write. I don't know if I need to place on the record the reasons that we're stopping. I think we've talked about it a little bit. But at some point, defense counsel enters the room while the defendant spends some time just sitting there writing. Defense counsel enters the room, and so there are some comments that he makes to her that we believe would inflame the jury, and they are inappropriate to play because he actually makes a comment about what he believes about what she's written.
Your Honor, this is attorney-client privilege, what she's disclosing here, and I don't think it's appropriate to disclose it to the court or to the open court.
Okay, so there was an agreement that certain portions would not be played, and
We've had this
that was
conversation
determined, so we can stop.
But there's reasons that it's stopping based on that. I mean, he's being recorded, so it's not attorney-client privilege. He acknowledges he's being recorded, so it's not a private conversation. However,
shaking his head.
that is the reason that we're stopping it, is because defense counsel enters and there's conversations. And so we just believe the safest route, and counsel agreed with that, is to stop it at 9:36:15.
Okay. And is that your understanding, Attorney?
It is, Your Honor, and we just want to emphasize that 47 minutes that it is stated why they're speaking for, because she's in there alone and there's nothing being done.
Right, that's fine, and that will be explained to the jurors.
And if it makes counsel feel better that there are, you can just say there are sections that where nothing's being said, that we're going to forward through, and that they should not speculate or consider what's not played. If that's up to him. What's charged?
Yes, Attorney Tucker can be allowed to say that to the jurors to explain. Okay. Are we ready at this time?
Oh, look, she's getting in a little accordion folder for a moment. She's feeling important.
I just got to grab my pad real quick. I had some questions.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring the jurors back in at this time. Bailiff Ennis, if you would, thank you.
Okay, so I'm assuming she's going to testify now after I've had all this chit-chat. Are y'all ready? You might as well get your popcorn, or I don't know what time of day it is you'll be watching this, or night. But it's probably going to take some time. I'll be interested to see what she has to say.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. At the time that we broke for lunch, the state had rested, meaning it had concluded bringing all the evidence it intended to adduce in this case. At this time, I'm going to inquire of the defense if they intend to call any witnesses. Attorney Tucker?
Yes, ma'am. I do plan to call Ms. Payne to the stand.
Okay, you may.
Here we go.
again. Ms. Payne, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you shall give in this case today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes, you may lower your right hand, have a seat if you just put yourself up to the mic and project so that we can all hear you and that the court reporter can record what is being said. You may proceed, Attorney Tucker.
If you could say your full name for the record and spell it out for the close knowledge.
It's Hannah, Hannah, Payne, Payne.
Okay, and Ms. Payne, have you lived in Bay County or Clayton County in close proximity? I don't want to get out of addresses, but have you lived there the majority of your life?
I have. I was born and raised in Clayton County and then moved to Fayette when I was 8.
Do you have any family members that are law enforcement?
I
If
do
you
not.
recall, what do you do for a living?
I'm in property management for apartment communities, and I've been in that industry now for going on 10 years.
Okay, so you came straight out of high school into that.
I did.
And that kind of industry, what do you do for your job?
Typically, I'm in the field. I go from property to property, either collecting rent, sometimes walking vacant and or abandoned apartments that could potentially be under construction, and I would show vacant apartments to potential renters.
Okay. So at times you were carrying basically tills for your company of large amount of money?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And testified that on some occasions or more occasions you have to show empty properties or empty locations to people that you don't know or that you're told to by your company?
Correct.
Okay.
Whether it be vacant apartments or vendors, either or.
And how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's a part of my job. In the beginning, we had smaller properties where I was the only person who was going from property to property. There were occasions that were unsettling, but it was still a part of my job, and the longer that I was with the company, the larger we got, the more properties we received, and the more, I guess, it put me more out alone, by myself, without additional site staff, without anybody with me.
And they would know that you were going to these sites, correct?
Correct. Not exactly which ones. I would be kind of all over the place, depending on which ones I was going to.
And because you were going to all these different places to meet people you don't know, did you do anything for your safety?
I did.
And what was that?
I registered for a concealed carry permit, and when I received it, I purchased a firearm.
Did your company know about this?
They did, yes.
And were they in support of this?
Yes, they were.
And it was not unusual for other individuals with the same type of work to wear a gun or have a gun?
No, not at all.
Okay. And you said you purchased a gun. What kind of gun did you purchase?
It was a Springfield, and it was a XD, because it was smaller, so I was able to keep it concealed.
Okay. And you got a valid permit, correct?
Correct.
What else did you do to help make sure that carrying a permit or carrying a gun on your side would be safe?
I would go to the shooting range, and at different shooting ranges, they offer kind of like a variety of options, including self-defense kind of classes, or tutorials rather.
And did you ever take one of those classes or tutorials?
I did.
And which one did you take?
It was a while ago, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly, but it was a self-defense training course.
Okay. And in this training, what did you learn from what they were teaching?
Just how to properly store your weapon, how to properly remove your weapon, how to make sure that your safety when doing so doesn't cause accidental discharge. And they would explain how when you pull your weapon out, that the way you hold it is determined based on what you're ready to do. In other words, you keep your index finger on the slide until you're ready to pull the trigger. When you're ready to pull the trigger is when you put your finger into the trigger guard.
Right now, when you say the slide, is that the top portion, the side portion, or is it a combination of both?
Like the side.
Okay.
How your hand would normally just rest.
And is that all that they were training for at that time?
For the most part, yes. I mean, they taught us, how to load or unload and smaller things like that, but...
Have you ever had a accidental discharge of the firearm while loading or unloading?
No.
Okay. And did you commonly wear this weapon?
Every day.
Where'd you wear it?
On my person, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I had a holster that went inside of my pants, and I wore it on my front right hip.
Was that visible to individuals?
No.
Okay. And did you do that purposely?
I did.
Okay. And do you recall May 7th of 2019?
I do.
Prior to that day, have you ever had to draw your weapon or find yourself in a position where you would need to?
No.
Okay. So on this May 7th, of course, you've been hearing these stories. Could you tell us what happened on that day?
I can. I was on my way home from work, and I was coming up to an intersection where the light had just turned green. As I was getting ready to turn left, there was a semi that was turning right. Someone ran the red light, and I watched him run right into the tractor trailer. I pulled off to the side, and I got on the phone with 911 just to give an account of what I had noticed. I had assumed that the truck driver or someone else that was involved had already called, and they hadn't.
If I could stop you right there. You said that you pulled off to the side. Whereabouts?
I pulled up onto the curb,
Okay.
right through the intersection.
And why did you do that?
I wanted to get out of the lane of travel.
Okay, so there was heavy traffic that day.
It was pretty steady.
Okay. And is that where you called the 911?
It is, yes.
Okay, and then what did you do?
After I got on the phone with 911, I was kind of explaining everything that I saw, and I started to walk over to the truck driver because I noticed that there was someone else who had witnessed it, who pulled off to the side.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. You said you walked up to the truck driver. What was that driver's name?
I believe it was Mr. Kimball.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So I walked over to the truck driver, and we kind of just were conversing, asking, I don't even know what happened, and he just was confirming that we did have a green light. So I noticed that someone else had walked over to the other vehicle that was involved and was checking on them. After talking to Mr. Kimball for a while, he was on the phone with his dispatch the entire time, and so I was kind of relaying everything that happened so that they were able to hear it from me and not just from him.
Relaying it to whom?
To his job.
Okay.
So his supervisor, I would assume.
All right, so you're speaking with him, relaying to the dispatch about what was going on, confirming the light was green for him.
Correct.
And then what else happened?
After that, we were kind of just standing there waiting for the police to arrive, and the other gentleman who had witnessed it walked over to us, and he introduced himself and said that he was a state officer, and he flashed his badge and said that he had checked on the other gentleman and that was asking us, are we okay? Is everybody all right? And actually told me that he had saw where he ran the red light and confirmed it to Mr. Kimball as well.
Okay. Now, Clara, he came and identified himself as a state officer.
Correct.
Okay. And you've heard a couple of times it being called a correctional officer or another name. Are you sure he identified himself as a state officer to you
He told
and to Mr. Kimball?
Correct. He told me that he was a state officer. I didn't find out that it was a correctional officer until months later when I found out from you.
But he did show a badge?
He did.
Okay.
I mean, he didn't pull it off. He just lifted his shirt, and we saw the badge, and then he continued.
And how was he speaking to you, or how was his demeanor to you and Mr. Kimball?
He was trying to make sure everyone was okay, making sure that we kind of stayed over here, and that anything that, you know, we could remember that happened, we were kind of going over it with him. But he seemed to be comfortable with the situation and making sure that all of us felt comfortable, I guess is the best way to explain it.
Okay. So, your voice on the 911 appeared to be kind of calm, and so that was the tone or how you perceived everybody's tone as this was continuing on?
For the most part, I think that me and the truck driver were kind of more calm. The officer, the way that it was kind of like he was, I don't know any other term other than kind of hyped up. Like he wanted to make sure that he was in charge in a way.
Okay. And what else did he state while you were sitting there waiting on the police to arrive?
Well, me and the truck driver were curious because we didn't know what had just happened. It seemed obvious that he ran the red light. So we were asking him if he was okay and if there was something going on. And he said, he's okay, but he said he's definitely inebriated.
Are you sure that's the word he used?
I'm positive because it prompted both me and the truck driver to reply simultaneously saying, do you mean he's drunk?
And did Mr. Kimball's dispatch hear or overhear that conversation or hear the conclusion?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. So the state officer said that.
I'm stopping for a minute because wouldn't that have been a good person to call in if you wanted to prove that the correctional officer, I can't remember his name right now, but he's the one, he already testified. But the call, like I don't know if it was being recorded, but when they want to get the person that she was talking to, the truck driver, Mr. Kimball's supervisor, come in and testify that yes, he did. That person did say, the state officer said he was inebriated. Not that it's really at the end of the game. At the end of the day, it's really not that big of a deal. But I'm just not sure that it was ever anywhere that he said that he was inebriated. So I'm just wondering where that came from. But doesn't matter now because it's all been said and done. But just a thought.
That, and it kind of sparked yours and Mr. Kimball's attention. What happened next?
Afterwards, we're still standing around probably another maybe 10 or 15 minutes now, additional from the original 10 minutes or so. And me and Mr. Kimball are continuing to speak, and the state officer had walked back over because at this time the guy in the truck had got out of his vehicle.
Okay. And when he got out of his vehicle, did the state officer address him?
He did.
And what was said?
He was just asking him what was he doing, and where are you going? You know, just come out of traffic, because his truck was still in the lane, so there were still cars that were passing, and he was just basically trying to make sure you need to just come out the way and stay out of traffic.
So from your perception, the state officer was remaining calm, trying to direct, at that time you didn't know, but now you do know, Mr. Herring, to be safe and get out of harm's way, correct?
Originally, yes.
Okay. And then what continued from there?
I couldn't hear what they were saying, but he kind of started walking around, and the officers started following him around the vehicle, and you could see him having conversations, but again, I couldn't hear what they were saying.
And when you said walking around where?
His truck.
And just in that proximity of just his truck?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, continue.
So after he was walking around for a little bit, he kind of started, he being the state officer, started to walk back over to us, and he was kind of just giving us this look like, this guy is, there's something that's up. And before anybody could ask, or either of us could ask him what he meant, he walked back over to him. I was actually on the phone with my family when I was on my way home from work, which I hung up to call the police. So during this time is when I took that opportunity and I kind of walked back to my vehicle and I was on the phone. I called my family back to let them know what was going on.
And it was to let them know what's going on, or let them know that you were safe, or?
Correct.
Okay. And is that when you made this second call, the 911 call?
It is. I noticed from a distance that it was getting more tension, I guess. Couldn't hear the conversations, but I could see the hand movements and the gestures between the two of them. Again, I don't know what he was saying, but it was almost like he's trying to explain to him something, which is when I told them, I'm going to call you guys back. I'm going to call the police back because something else is going on, because he started walking towards his vehicle again, like the driver's side at that time.
And when you called 911 the second time, was it kind of the same manner you did the first time?
It was. I was just basically explaining to them what it looked like was about to take place, assuming and hoping that they would say, okay, well, we actually have an officer. He's literally right there. Given the time frame, I would have assumed that someone would have been there by then.
Okay. How many accidents have you seen before this one?
I mean, passed on the road, a few. Witnessed firsthand, none.
And have you ever been in an accident yourself?
No.
Okay. So this is the first time you're encountering any kind of accident really firsthand or close by?
Yes.
Okay. And you get back on the phone with 911, and what occurs then?
I'm explaining to them what I thought that we had learned was that the driver who had caused the original accident was potentially drunk.
And that came from what the state officer said?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And as I'm explaining it to her, I noticed that's when he completely gets in his truck. He starts trying to turn it on, and you can hear him like revving it to get it to turn on, which I think that all of us were shocked that it even turned on to begin with. And that's when he started to drive away.
And you said you were shocked. Why were you shocked that it started back up?
There was fluids everywhere. It was smoking. It was damaged.
Was there a major impact?
There was, yeah. I mean, the entire tractor trailer just shifted and rocked when he hit him.
And you don't know what speed he was going at going through the red light?
I don't.
Okay. But you did see the effects it had on the 18-wheeler? Okay. And then you are on the phone with 911. You see him jump into his vehicle, revving it up. So what happens then?
I'm just basically just telling dispatch that that's what's happening. I am explaining to her he just got in his car, and she asked me if I was able to get the tag number as he's pulling away.
Were you able to get the tag number?
At that point, I wasn't, no.
Did it appear anybody had gotten the tag number?
No.
And
They were just trying to get out of the middle of the road.
so people were trying to get out of the way. Was anybody screaming, get the tag number, or?
I mean, at the time, all I could see was the state officer and the truck driver the state officer was kind of grabbing the truck driver, kind of telling him, to get out of the way.
Where was this truck driver standing?
They were, so if this was the lane where they were turning and the truck was kind of partially turned, they were standing at the, like, kind of the middle part of the intersection, which would have been middle part of the tractor trailer, which is kind of in front of Mr. Herring's vehicle.
Okay. Did it ever appear that any of them might have been in jeopardy of being hit when Mr. Herring was starting up his vehicle?
Initially, it's not the first thing that came to, I think, anybody's mind, but then once he started revving it and just kind of took off, then yeah.
And then what happened?
So I'm explaining to the dispatch what happened, and as he's pulling off, she's asking me, you know, was I able to get the tag number? Realizing I wasn't able to, I was already at my vehicle, and I completely got in my vehicle and went to go pull off. And at that time, the truck driver and the state officer was still standing over in the street, and he started waving me over, like calling me towards him.
Okay. And when you got up close to him, what happened?
I asked him, did he go straight? And he said yes. And he's telling me, he said, go.
So at that time, you were under the impression that he's a state officer sending you to get the tag, and 911 knows that you're on the way to get the tag.
Correct. And he was, when I was in my vehicle, when he was waving me over, his motions were, it was almost like he was waving me on. So when he brought me up, when I got up to him, is when he told me to go.
Okay. And he said go, or did he say something else, or?
No, he just said, good, go.
Okay. All right, so then now you're going in the direction they pointed you, and you're on the phone with 911. Was 911 saying anything?
No, she was not.
All right.
There was kind of silence from the time that she had initially asked me if I had got the tag. I was still kind of getting my bearings, and I just started repeating to her, telling her, okay, you know, he's going down Clark Howell, or Forest Parkway.
So you never heard them give a warning of not to chase, or?
No.
But they did.
And having heard the tape, did you feel that you were talking over it, or you just didn't hear it, or?
No. I was explaining to her as we were going down the road, I'm explaining to her what's happening. And from how I remembered it, she asked me again, so were you able to get it? And I explained to her, not yet, but I am about to. And that's when she told me that she just wanted me to be safe. I told her that I understood, and that I wasn't chasing. I was just going to follow, to stay behind him, to stay with him until the police could get to us. So I was able to kind of accurately, basically just keep them in the loop, since they obviously weren't there yet.
Okay. So your impression at that point is that you're just going to get the tag, and then hopefully that'll be it. You just report the tag.
Correct.
Okay. And did 911 ever come on and say, "Hey, we've already got the tag from somebody else"?
No, she never did.
Okay. So as you're getting up close to get the tag, what happens then?
As I'm getting closer, I explained to her that I had the tag, and she basically tells me that this is the way that I interpreted it, was that she wanted both of us to go back to the original accident site because police should be there by now.
All right. Did she say something before that about you just returning, or the only thing you heard was that both of y'all needed to be?
Correct. She just told me she wanted me to be safe. I told her I felt like I was safe. And that's when I told her that I was going to stay with them until an officer could get to us. And she said that that's what she wanted me to do.
At any
No,
time, did you identify
I don't
you
think
had a
so.
gun or was carrying a gun?
I didn't.
So you're following the individual to get his tag, and you get it, and then your interpretation of what was said is that they wanted both of y'all to come back to the scene.
Correct.
So what did you do at that point?
Okay, I remember she said you all, but I don't think she meant you all as in Mr. Herring. Probably you all, like if somebody was in the vehicle with her. I don't think she said you and the person you're trying to get the tag number from. That would not be a smart call from 911. I think it was just a miscommunication, or more than that, Hannah just heard what she wanted to hear. Because once she was in hot pursuit, let's face it, she wasn't going to stop. She told her she would. I'm not going to chase him. He's drunk, blah, blah, blah. Hannah. Well, we'll just let the prosecution take care of that on the cross-examination.
At that point is when we had both come up to the intersection, and I saw him stopped in the turning lane. So I turned as well, and when I stopped, I was under the impression, with me having 911 on the phone, that I could just be kind of like a messenger. So I took my phone on speaker and I took it to him to show him that I had the police on the phone. And I'm telling him they want us to go back to the original accident site.
Okay, but look, she already knew, or in her mind, that he was inebriated. So whether he was inebriated or, obviously he was having a medical emergency, why would she think it was okay to show him the phone? Oh, so sorry, I bumped that. And say, oh, the police is on the phone. And if he's inebriated, how is he going to understand? Is he going to want to come back with her? And then also with him, the other thing is, if it was a medical emergency, like it appears it definitely was, why he would be confused. So she should have just, got the tag number. Okay, fine. But yeah, she still, almost caused an accident doing that. She just couldn't stop herself. Just look at her. It even sounds like when now she's speaking, she feels right about it. She does. I don't know. I don't see remorse in her. Only sadness for herself. Ugh.
At this point, y'all have not made contact, correct?
No, we have not.
So how far do you think you pulled over the distance between you and his truck?
Well, he was in the turning lane, and I was in what would be considered like the right straight lane. And the distance between the vehicles were probably maybe the width of this table.
But there was no contact, correct?
No, there was not.
Okay. And did you have any fear that something was going to happen by walking up to him with the phone?
I didn't think I had anything to fear. I assumed that having authorities on the phone, explaining that to him, that would just mean, okay, we'll go back.
Yeah.
Because you had not heard what the
Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to calm down here. That's what she gets for thinking. No. Look at that. I don't like her face. I don't like her attitude. That's just my opinion, though.
Change between him and the state officer, correct?
I had not, no.
Okay. And as you approached him with the phone, how did you have it in your hand?
I had it on speaker, and I was kind of holding it like in my palm, with it kind of resting in my hand, just like facing him, so that he could see it says 911.
Now you mentioned that he was in turn lane and was stopped, correct?
Correct.
Did you cause him to stop?
I did not.
And why would he be stopped in that lane?
Come on.
The only thing that I could think of was either he was merging and his vehicle finally gave up, or that okay, so the way that the lanes merged, I was assuming that he was either waiting for traffic, but then getting up closer, you can see all of the liquid, like underneath the vehicle. You can see the truck is smoking.
Okay, and you said earlier that it might have just finally exhausted.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, and even when we were back at the original accident site, the state officer and even the truck driver, but they were adamant that they don't understand how this truck hasn't just kind of blown, was how they were describing it.
Okay, so you intend to walk up with the phone, tell them, hey, the police are on the phone. What happened then?
I was walking up to him, and I am explaining that I'm on the phone with the police and that they wanted us to go back to the original accident site. It's loud. We're near an interstate. It's a busy road, and I can't hear what he's saying to me. But as I got closer, I heard him asking me, "Who the F are you?" And I told him that I was nobody, but that I had the police on the phone. And that they wanted us to go back to the original accident site.
Okay, so you'd explain that to them. Did you have the phone close to you? Did you have it away from you? Where was the phone?
It was kind of not extended, but partially of the way.
Okay, and what happened then?
Apparently I was close enough for him to reach out the car, and he knocked my phone out of my hand, and he grabbed me
Oh,
by
God.
my wrist, and he pulled me into the vehicle.
Okay, now, you said apparently you got too close to the vehicle. Did it appear to you you were too close to the vehicle, or?
I wasn't thinking that I needed adequate space to stay away from him or anybody or anything.
Okay, and then you said he knocked the phone out of your hand,
Yes.
and then he grabbed you. You said one was on your wrist, and where was the other hand?
And originally he had just grabbed my wrist, and he had pulled me in the car, and at some point my shirt had gotten grabbed, and he
Go ahead.
He was pulling my wrist, and he pulled me in the vehicle, and he kept yelling at me, telling me, "I have something for you," and he used, "I have something for you, bitch." And he's leaning, and he's reaching, and he's pulling, and at this point, I remember that I'm sorry.
Take your time.
I remember that he had let go of my wrist, and he grabbed me by the back of my neck. And it was as if he was trying to kind of keep a hold of me. The entire time I'm telling him, I'm thinking, I still have to be on the phone with the police. They have to know. I'm telling him to let me go. And that's when he hits the gas, and we go forward. I'm still in the car at this point, and while it only may have been a few steps or a few feet, when you are being held against your will, and
Please. Please, please, please.
you have no idea what's ahead of you, and you're looking down, it felt like it lasted forever. And I just remember, it was like I saw my life flash before my eyes, and I thought I was going to go down Riverdale Road, hanging out the side of this car.
And the whole time, are you trying to get away from this situation?
I'm trying to pull away from him, yes.
And how did you do that?
My entire body was up against the vehicle, and I'm just trying my hardest to push away with any part of me that I can, whether it was my arms or my knees, trying to just put distance in between me and the vehicle, thinking I could get away from it, and was unsuccessful.
And at one part, you hear yourself screaming, "Get the F out of the car." What was going on then?
I'm thinking that I have a better chance of not being drugged if he's not in the vehicle.
What I hold here is a bag that's been labeled with evidence that we're going to call it defense exhibit number 39, 38, 39. Okay, and as you can see, it's sealed and not open. At this time, Your Honor, I'm going to approach the witness, although I'm not sure until I open it, she can identify it. Do you see me writing on this right here?
Yes.
Okay. Does that identify a article of clothing?
It does.
Okay. And at this time, I'm going to open the evidence. Appear to be okay.
Is there an objection from the state? Yeah, I mean, he is not taking.
I'm going to tell you what okay. I'll show it to her to see.
He's always trying to take shortcuts.
Do you see this shirt?
Yes.
Does that shirt look familiar to you?
Yes.
Is it an accurate representation of the shirt you were wearing that day of the incident?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would like to tender what is exhibit defense 39.
Any objection from the state?
No objection, Your Honor.
Admitted without objection.
And I'd like to present it to, or show to the jury, the shirt she was wearing the day of the incident. Was it torn when you were wearing it that day?
No.
When Mr. Herring grabbed you, did he tear it?
Yes.
And is this a fair representation of the rips and what it ended up being at the end?
Yes.
Along with the rips in that shirt, was there any other part of your body that had any kind of marks from where he grabbed you?
Yes.
Okay, where were those?
I had marks on the back of my neck and kind of scratches along my arms, bruisings on my wrists, and scratches along my chest.
Okay. Anything in the facial area?
Yes. I had a kind of a black eye, but a bruised eye and a busted upper lip. And other,
Tiny mark on
I
it.
guess, like sore spots, like or bruising and redness around the edges of my face.
And all of this occurred while he was dragging you forward towards your vehicle?
Correct.
Okay. And you said he was making a statement to you of, "I've got something for you, bitch." Was there any other statements made that you can remember this time?
No, he just kept telling me that kind of over and over again, and that I was nobody.
Now, what was he doing in the vehicle while this is all going on?
before he punched the gas is when he was kind of turning his body and he was reaching behind him.
Did you see what he was reaching for?
No, I did not.
Did you see any of the contents of the inside of his vehicle?
During, no.
Okay.
I could see that there were things everywhere, but other than that, I didn't really.
Have you ever experienced anything like that prior to this incident?
No.
Okay. And then what happened then?
After the reaching is when he mashed the gas, and when he mashed the gas, like I said, have no understanding of how far we went, how much farther we can go. At that point, I didn't know that we had stopped because we hit my vehicle, and that's when I drew my weapon.
Right, now you said mashing the gas. What did that sound like?
You could hear the truck just revving and hissing from like the liquids spewing, and it was loud.
And you stated that then you said you have a gun?
I did.
And what was your intent at that point?
My intent was that pulling it out, he would let me go, and I'd pull away from the vehicle, and that would be it.
Did you ever stop trying to pull away from the vehicle?
No.
And explain to me how you pulled your gun out at that time.
It was in my holster on my right hip, and he had a hold of me, and I pulled it out and immediately started trying to just continue to push against the door with it, like pushing away from him.
Okay. And as you're pushing away from the door, what happens then?
He grabbed my hand with the gun in it.
Okay, let me go. Which arm did you pull, or which hand did you pull the gun with?
It was my right hand.
Okay. And you said he grabbed your wrist. Which wrist?
He grabbed my right wrist.
All right. And how did he have that wrist?
Well, with one of his hands, he actually grabbed my wrist to pull it towards him.
Could you tell which hand or arm he had grabbed your wrist with?
It was his left, because he had a hold of me. He had released me with this hand from my neck to grab me with this hand.
Okay. And the gun that was outside the door that you were pushing away from, he got a hold of that, correct?
Correct.
And what happened then?
After he originally grabbed it and was kind of pulling at it back and forth is when he put his other hand on top and he started trying to actually yank it away from me. And then he started to try to turn it, to pry it, almost like he was trying to pry it out of my hands so that he could take it away. And
which angle was he trying to pry it out of your hand?
like away from me, so it was this way.
Okay. And that obviously is not the way your wrist is supposed to move, correct?
Correct.
Is that what caused the bruising or the...
It is.
Okay. And you said he's trying to push it this way and pry it out of your hand?
To me, it's what it felt like he was trying to pry it out of my hand.
And you said another hand came over and grabbed it?
Yes.
Okay.
From the top.
Your Honor, so that you understand and the jury can see it. If I may approach the demonstration of what she's saying.
You may.
This is a toy gun. And even though it's a toy gun, it does have a slide on it. As you can see, that you can pull back. There's nothing in this gun. It's a toy gun. So, if this is the gun that you have, he was pointing it to say I and him in his seat. How did he have your wrist? Like this?
This hand was here, yes.
Okay. And the gun was here, pulling you forward.
Yes.
And you said he had you here
But
on this?
he was closer.
All right. So, and he had your shoulder with this hand, or what was this hand doing?
That he let go
He let go.
once he got a hold of this wrist.
So he came.
And he grabbed the gun.
All right, tried to grab the gun like this.
Correct.
Okay. And where was your finger?
The same way that I have it now.
And when he grabbed like this, that shows his fingers are right there over the trigger.
Correct.
Is that a correct?
I mean,
So-
yes.
So it's possible any of the 4 digits got into that trigger.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So that occurred, and grabbed the gun like that. What happens next?
He's pulling at it. He's pulling at it, and I'm just yelling at him to stop, thinking that if I could just get away, it'll just be over, I guess.
Were you saying anything to him at this time?
To stop.
Were you saying it loudly?
Yeah, over and over again. Yeah, I was screaming it.
And then what happened?
As he's turning it towards, like that way, I'm being pulled, and I can feel myself like pressing up against the car, like my face is up against the door. And as he's pulling it is when the gun went off.
And you saw the pictures that showed your hand kind of pulled back. Why would your hand or arm been pulled back like that?
After it went off, my entire body kind of fell backwards. Like I was almost like I was falling over, and I was trying to catch my balance. And my arm was turned so far in that once it went off and I was released, it just kind of sprung back.
What was going through your mind at that time?
A lot. I knew that I was still had to be on the phone with 911, and that I was just trying to get away from where I've been trying to get away from for the last however many minutes, and that I needed to communicate back to 911 what had happened.
So you picked up the phone and...
I turned and I picked up my phone that was on the ground, and I told her what happened.
Okay. At any time, did you look around for a shell? To
No.
pick up a shell?
No, I did not.
Were you concerned about a shell?
I was not at all.
Okay. And when you got on the phone with 911, you stated that he pulled the trigger?
Yes.
And what else did you state?
To her, I had told her that he had just pulled the trigger on my gun. And I remember kind of looking around, and I noticed behind me that there was someone who was standing behind me, and I asked them if they seen everything, if they would stay to, be a witness. And he was asking, like, if we were okay. He's like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And I told him, I said, I am, but no, he's not. And I asked the dispatch for an ambulance.
Okay. So your concern at that point was to try to get dispatch to send an ambulance out?
Correct.
Did you look around to see if anyone was close?
I did. And
Boy.
that's when I noticed that there were actually, there were police that were, to me, felt so close that all of this could have just been avoided.
But you had no foresight or any kind of anticipation that it would conclude like this?
I had no idea.
And it appears that a lot of witnesses did come up to confront you or to say what they thought they saw.
Originally, everyone that was standing around, they weren't like saying anything direct. Everyone was asking each other what happened. Everyone was trying to figure out, like, well, where did this car come from, and how did this happen?
Did any of them or one particular stick out to you?
Only the one that was right next to me, because I was assuming that he saw the whole thing.
Did you know his name at that time?
I did not.
After seeing him get up and testify, do you know his name?
I do.
And what was his name?
Cameron
Cameron.
Williams.
Okay. And he did stay around?
He did. I don't know where he went exactly. He kind of started to walk around where everybody else was. And it was like I was still on the phone with 911, and I'm trying to explain to her what's going on. But at this point, I'm kind of in a bit of a daze. It was all over the place, honestly.
And what did you do with the gun?
I reholstered it. I took the holster off my hip, and I put it back in the holster.
Okay, and did it stay in that condition till the police came?
It did. I remember looking up and seeing that there was a police officer who was coming up from where he would have been at like the interstate area. And as he was walking up, I was trying to get his attention because he was like walking towards all the bystanders, having no idea what was going on, having no idea who was involved with what or where or how. And I was trying to get his attention so that he knew, here's the weapon, so that he could have it.
All right, now you said that a lot of crowds were saying stuff, trying to confirm what had happened. Did you hear all that they were saying?
It was more a bunch of kind of questions. After the police officer had come up, one of the people that was standing there were basically, again, asking what had happened. And she asked me, she said, did you just shoot him? And I told her, I said, no. I said, he pulled me into the vehicle. He had a hold of me, but that I never had my finger on the trigger.
And why is that?
I mean, number one, from training, and number two, I never had any intention on pulling the trigger.
And in fact, you never did pull that trigger, did you?
Correct.
Now, the officers, of course, came up, took your gun, and was there another officer that you encountered at that time?
I was standing on the sidewalk. I was just trying to stay out of the way. And the original officer who I handed my gun to went into Mr. Herring's truck. And the other officer had come up, and everyone was kind of like, pointing towards me, basically. And he walked up to me and just told me that until they could figure out what was going on, that I would be detained.
So, as you said, kind of this fog's going on and you're in shock. Did you ever see that there was an opportunity to try to render assistance, or did that even cross your mind?
From the time that it happened to the time that the police officer got there, the initial response for me was I was away from this vehicle. And I wasn't trying to interject myself back into a situation that I had just got away from.
Okay. And when the other officer detained you, did he put you somewhere?
He did, in the back of the police car.
Put a recording there. So I'm going to take a recording or video of what occurred, which will be back seat. It may take me a second to use this technology. If you want to take a break or if they're ready to go.
Are you going to require any IT assistance?
I might. I've learned a lot on this machine, but I might. No, I wouldn't want to. That's stuff here. So yes, I might.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to give you a brief break. It's now 3:30. I just ask that you report back at 3:45. Thank you. ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am, I'm trying to get a step ahead and have the features pulled out.
Court appreciates that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the jurors in at this time.
All right. Get back in the statements, ma'am.
Oh my goodness, look at all the papers he has. I think he's going to have them all jumbled up.
You may be seated, thank you. You may proceed, Attorney Tucker.
When we left off, I asked what happened once the officer came up. Officer Richie took your weapon, correct?
Correct.
And then another officer came and got you, was taking you to the car.
Correct. I mean, there was a little bit of time that went in between that, but from him taking my weapon to me walking, trying to stay out of the way, and I just remembered kind of going back and forth with the witnesses, talking about, again, them asking what happened. And I remember yelling for one of the officers to come up, and that we needed an ambulance. I was asking where the ambulance was.
Okay. And you do recall being placed in the back of a car similar to this, correct?
Yes.
And there was a video that you've seen prior to today that shows what happens in this video, correct?
Correct.
And I will show you a small bit, and then I'll stop it so you can confirm that that is the video that you recall of the interview with you after being put in the vehicle. Okay?
Okay.
Where's the ball? Here.
He's not allowed to do anything, but he did.
Is it on the computer? Oh, yes.
Okay, before we proceed, a couple of things. This is rather lengthy, as you all will see. So it's taken me a period of days to put it together. So now I'm sounding a bit nasally. I do apologize for that. I think this time I might have a cold, but I'm very lucky because I've escaped pretty much the whole year without one, just mostly allergies. And this could be an allergy thing going on because we've had so much pollen and everything. But I do apologize for the nasally sounding. I hope it's not too aggravating to you all. But I still want to get this done, number one, because I want y'all to see it because it's pretty interesting. And number two, it could end up going into my throat and then it'll really sound worse than I do now. So I do apologize for that and any background noise that might be going on. But I believe that I'm speaking loudly enough and I have the sound up loud enough that it shouldn't be too disruptive. And then number two, as you know, they kind of went on a break because Attorney Tucker, aka Smarmy, is trying to get up some video footage, but of course he's struggling. And I do want to let you know I have spared you all of about 20 minutes of him bumbling about, getting once again the kind-hearted court reporter involved, helping him with it, and now the tech person is here to assist him, so he should be able to play this video that he wants to play. I think I'm pretty close to it, but I did want to spare you all that time because it was a lot of just foolishness, you know. I don't know. Anyhow, it's kind of funny though, but here we go. Wonder if they're.
Oh, yeah, you know, get there, and I ran up there, I ended up.
Okay, I think it's gonna be here in the back of the car.
All right. How you doing, man?
So you said you recall that situation happening, that's fair, accurate representation.
Of him walking up to the car.
And then, from what's gonna occur here, I would like you to listen, please. And
Not doing good. I'm Sergeant Mary, the Clayton County Police Department. All right. Can you just give me a few minutes? You gotta talk to me and tell me what happened. Okay. Take your time. Turning left on board Parkway.
I pulled off the road, I called the
He ran to the semi? Okay.
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 We were waiting, and then almost 20 minutes later, I called the police back with the note that he was drunk and that he was getting out of his car. There was a police officer, I don't know from where, he showed me his badge, he was doing the whole thing down there as well. So he kept like, so I jumped in my vehicle while I was on the city back, and I followed him in the traffic. He was all over the road.
Okay.
And while I was following him, I was still listening to everything because I didn't kind of talk about all of it. I followed him like that until there was almost midnight.
Okay.
So I followed him down here. I got up and I was able to cut something, and I told him to get out the car. We need to stop the car.
Okay.
And I carried my leg in the field on my right hand side. I told him I should stop. And once that I was short, and once that I did that video.
Okay.
When I got up to the car, I was on the phone with dispatch, so I got up there to he said I was going to get her, and smacked my phone out of my hand. So the words were said before that, but I don't smacked my phone out of my hand, and I told him he needed to get out of the car. He grabbed my shirt, and he pulled on my shirt, and he under my
What did he have a hold of you with? Okay. Your hand? Okay. How did you grab your wrist? Kind of vehicle or what?
I was so
Like pointing?
And I was up at the window, and when he was grabbing the hold of me, grabbing the hold of my shirt, is when I got closer to the window, and I was talking back, and I just wanted to reaching, and maybe I'm mistaken because my feelings changed on me now. I don't know, but that's why I wanted to get protection.
Okay.
But I mean, then
All I need is to push it out. You don't got to go that. They're gonna talk to you at CID. I just need to know what came up when the weapon was fired.
I pulled it out and I told him that I
still back until we, okay, all right.
I stood back. I told him to move around. I told him to sit still. That's when I was yelling to dispatch to tell them to come back around. And I stood back in the picture. I've been sitting there waiting.
Were you on the phone with dispatch at that time? Oh, the whole time? Okay, all right.
And I was on when he came around the corner is when I came. It's just I told him like here's my gun, where what was shot, here's my here's
Okay, all right. All right, thank you.
my straight is there any way that I can call him?
When you have the opportunity to call him, just give him a minute.
She's probably like, I've heard enough. I'm gonna just send her in downtown.
Now,
I don't really see how that helped her at all, honestly. Oh dear Lord, Lord.
yeah.
I can't even talk. Oh, here comes the tech person again.
Yes, now, having heard that, is that what your recollection of the count, how it happened?
Minus details,
Okay.
generally.
Well, how were you feeling at that time?
I was overwhelmed. I mean, I didn't know what was really going on.
Is that why
I
you
was
wanted?
scared.
Is that why you wanted to call your parents? Okay. And they had some pictures earlier that were presented. If I may approach, Your Honor.
Did you show?
Yes, I did. I showed them.
Okay.
What I have here is Defense Exhibit number 27, 28, 29, all the way through, here's 30, 35. You recall seeing those when I entered them into evidence, correct?
Yes.
I may present, Your Honor. Let's go in chronological order. Yeah. Does this look like a fair and accurate representation of where it appears you were scratched?
Yes.
Okay, is that where when you said he was reaching for your head or trying to pull you in, that's where the marks came from?
Yes.
It didn't come from putting a sweatshirt on, did it?
About those fingernails
Okay.
ripped off.
And this is Defense Exhibit number 28. Do you recall?
Okay, I don't know if I remember saying this before, but could her wrist possibly be swollen from the handcuffs? It just seems there's a lot of stuff that not very, alarming little scratches and stuff here and there. That had to have happened in a very short period of time because all this happened quickly. She could have easily scratched herself. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's the handcuffs. Maybe when she was up against the car, she was beating on the car from what many people said. So I think I said before, I think a lot of those could be from that. But that's just me speculating, of course.
All this,
Yes.
okay, and this area here, what is that?
It's my wrist.
Is that where the swelling or what?
Yes.
If that's your right hand?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And that would be swollen for why? What reason?
Well, there was swelling on both, but on this side it was from where I was grabbed, but then my right wrist is where it was being like twisted and pulled
Okay.
and grabbed.
Is this another photograph of how your shirt ended up
Yes.
that day?
Yes.
Okay. And when they were taking pictures, they took a picture of here. What was going on there?
You can't really tell in this picture, but it was starting. It was hurting. Like it was starting to swell, and there's irritation around it. I guess you could call it.
Okay. And do you recall them pulling out a ruler to measure the marks on the back of your neck?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall taking pictures of your hand there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And describe what was going on there.
There were like scratches and marks all along my hands and on my fingernails. There were a couple of them, and to try and remember now, I don't remember which ones, but there were a couple of them that were broken off when all of this was happening.
And there's some marks over here. Do you recall what those marks were?
The one right on the top was where Detective Moore basically was asking me if I was showing her where it was hurting, and in that area, she wanted him to document that it looked like a busted blood vessel.
Okay. And do you recall seeing this being presented into evidence?
I do.
Did you ever see that in the vehicle?
Not at the time, no.
Was that the biggest nightmare you had if that was in the vehicle?
Yes.
Oh, come on. See, they were just digging around for something that could be a potential weapon in Mr. Herring's car. And I'm saying, is that little knife, really her worst nightmare when she has her weapon, her pow-pow weapon? Come on. This is so pathetic, guys. I can't even sometimes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Here we go.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else you can remember about that incident?
Sorry, I'm so sorry, guys.
That you might have missed from seeing the back of the truck or back of the police car and speak with them in those pictures?
Small details don't really resonate very well. I mean, it's been the only thing that I've thought about for the last 4.5 years, but it's not details, no. Nothing that I can think of.
Now, did you get an opportunity to speak to other officers?
Yes, I did.
All right, and who was that?
After I was taken to the police station, they put me in a interview room, and eventually a Detective Hayward came in and introduced himself and said that he was waiting on his partner.
Do you recall who the partner was?
I was Detective Moore.
Okay. And do you recall how that interview went?
I remember feeling like I was waiting for hours. I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't talked to anybody since it happened, other than the police officers. And I just remember like feeling like I was waiting for forever, and I had no sense of time or what was going on.
All right. While you were waiting, did you do anything while you were waiting and sitting there alone?
I remember pacing, and that's when I noticed that my nails were broken. So I started messing with my fingernails. I started like taking them off, one of them I remember was hurting, which is what made me realize it was broken.
Okay. And do you recall any of the conversation between Detective Haywood and Moore in that interview?
Not really. I remember that to me it seemed like they would kind of go back and forth between one being more interested than the other. And they kept asking me the same things over and over again. But every time they would ask me, they would kind of insinuate like a different narrative, which to me, I'm thinking that there's an obvious explanation that everybody that was sitting around would have been able to see what I said happened. So to me, I didn't feel like it was, I guess, logical. So I was just confused.
Well, it seems like the explanation most everybody else had, was very different from yours, Hannah.
Okay. And you said they were insinuating that there was a different answer, or can you give an example of that?
I mean, if just trying to change like my wording, trying to, instead of when I explained to them that I was at the side of his vehicle, when they went back to repeat what I had said, they said, so you reached in his vehicle to show him your phone or something like that. And I just remembered, no, that's not what I said. I was trying to tell them exactly what happened. They kept stopping me, and then they would try and turn what I was saying, and then they'd pass it back to the other person.
Okay. At any time during this interview, did they tell you what was going on with Mr. Herring?
No, they did
Never
not.
once said his status or...
Never. No. And I remember asking Detective Hayward in the beginning, kind of, is what's going on? Have you talked to anybody else? Like insinuating, can you tell me anything? And he just said, I feel like he kind of brushed it off and just said that he would have to see. And that's when I asked about calling, like my family.
Yeah, but did she say, I want to know how Mr. Herring is or what happened to him? Or was it just like, I want to see what's going on? He's trying to make it sound like she was all concerned about Mr. Herring, but I really don't think she was. She just wanted to know what was going to be happening to her and why it would be, because she's so in the right. That's my thought, of course.
So to your knowledge, through this whole interview, you didn't know the status?
I never knew. No.
And
maybe should have asked for Mr. Smarmy earlier.
Questions, as you said, both sides?
Correct.
How did that make you feel?
In the beginning, when I was telling them what happened, I thought it was more of a kind of like a witness account, like here's what happened. As it got further into it, I could tell it. To me, it kind of started feeling like interrogation.
Well, yeah.
But
you weren't
originally,
a
I wasn't
witness.
thinking that it could have been an interrogation, because I'm just thinking that it was an incident that had a clear explanation as to what happened.
Oh,
Have
boy.
you been in a situation like that before?
Never.
Oh, boy.
And
Oh, Hannah.
having gone through that situation and here we are in court, is there anything you've learned from this situation that sticks in your mind from all this 4.5 years later?
That not everybody is going to have a reaction that you think they're going to have. And that clearly trying to do the right thing is not the right answer.
Oh, no, you tried to do the right thing, baby girl.
To help anybody else, try to help anybody ever again?
No.
I think that would be in your best. That'd be the best thing for you. Not to try to help anybody.
Does the state have cross-examination?
Ooh, cross. Here we go. Whoa.
now going to need IT right now. Do you plan to play anything else, Attorney Tucker?
I think we're back to the point, I know what we're doing up there, I'm not trying to stand an IT specialist, but I think we can handle it, and I don't anticipate.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
As you just discussed, you remember having an interview on May 7, 2019 with Detective Moore and Detective Hayward.
Correct.
And you recall during that interview when you were discussing the original incident that occurred on Clark Howell, that your vehicle was almost struck by Mr. Herring, correct?
Correct.
It was not struck.
No, it was not.
And that you were able to stop your vehicle before he came through the intersection.
Correct.
And at that time, you were able to go around and you pulled up on the sidewalk and waited to call the police.
Correct.
And while you were on scene at Clark Howell, you had no issues with Mr. Herring, correct?
No, none.
You never spoke to him directly?
No.
You didn't see any weapons on him?
No.
You never got close to him to smell any odor of alcohol on him?
No, I did not.
And he didn't threaten you in any way?
No, I did not.
And you never told the detectives or the police that Terry Robinson told you he was drunk?
I did, yes.
You told the police?
I told 911 dispatch.
Ooh, not the police though?
Now let's talk about 911 dispatch. Now, you also stated that when Mr. Herring took off from the incident location, you were already at your vehicle.
Correct.
And you had gotten into your vehicle, correct?
I was sitting in my vehicle on the phone. Correct.
And Terry Robinson and Mr. Kimball were still in the street.
Correct.
And you stated that he waved you over.
Yes.
And the only thing you heard Terry Robinson say was, "Go, go, go."
Correct.
That's your testimony today.
Correct.
So he never told you to take a picture of the tag?
Not that I remember, no.
Uh-oh.
And you also testified today that you never heard the 911 dispatch give you a warning not to chase.
No, I never said that. I said that she told me that she wanted me to be safe. And I said that from what I took it as was that she didn't want me to chase. And when I explained to her I wasn't chasing, I was just simply staying with him until a police officer could get to us.
And the 911 dispatch indicated to you approximately 4 times to either not chase Mr. Herring and go back to the scene, correct?
Incorrect. I only heard it one time, and she told me not to chase, to be safe. She never told me to go back to the scene until after I had told her that I was behind him and that she wanted me to be safe. And in doing so, she said that she wanted both of us to go back.
may I approach the witness, Your Honor? Excuse me. I'm handing you what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 40, which is a copy of the 911 transcript. If you can review that.
It's in its entirety or just what you're referencing?
You can review the entire transcript. You ready?
Yes.
All right, you see on page 1, female caller. Dispatcher tells you, okay, can you get his tag number? Your response, hold on, he's driving away. It's a red Dodge Dakota. Give me 1 second, hold on. Okay, so he is going west down Clark Howell. No, I'm sorry, down Forest Parkway. Dispatcher, okay, so you couldn't get a tag number? Your response, no, but I'm catching up to him right now. And the dispatcher tells you, okay, ma'am, we actually do not want you to chase him. We just want you to be safe. The first time they tell you not to chase him, correct?
She didn't tell me not to. She just said that they didn't want me to because of my safety. At least is the way that I interpret it.
Okay, I'll give you that. So they told you
Okay,
that they do not want you to chase him, correct?
Correct.
Ooh, Hannah.
And what did you say next? You can read it.
I understand.
Okay. And the dispatcher tells you after that, it's not safe to chase him. Second time, correct?
That's what the transcript guy said. When we're listening to it, I don't remember hearing that, but
Well, we heard
And
it.
can you read what your response was?
I understand 100%. I'm just going to get the tag number, if nothing else. But I am going west down Forest Parkway, and I'm almost up to him.
So you told the dispatcher that you understood 100%, correct?
That I needed to be safe. Correct.
Ooh, no, Hannah.
And the dispatcher states after that, okay, after you provide the tag number, which you provide the tag number before you make contact with Mr. Herring, correct?
Correct.
And once she gets the tag number from you, she tells you, okay, so if you could go back to that location where the incident happened because someone is actually on the way to you guys now. Is that correct?
Correct.
So there should be no confusion that she told both of you to go back to that location.
Well, if you keep, it's not confusion, it's just more to the conversation.
But you said your interpretation was that you thought that she was advising you and Mr. Herring to return to the incident location, correct?
Because that's what she says in the next line.
Okay, I'll let you read it. Read the entire response from dispatch.
From what the transcript reads is, you know.
From the beginning, okay.
Female caller or dispatcher?
Dispatcher.
Okay, so if you could go back to that location where the incident happened because someone is actually on the way to you guys now.
And Terry Robinson and Mr. Kimball were still at that location, correct?
That was 2 out of the 4 people.
Terry Robinson and Mr. Kimball were still at that location, correct? And that's the third time she's telling you to not continue to follow Mr. Herring and go back to the location.
No, that's when she told me to go back to the location. The first time. She didn't say anything about not following.
All right. And so what is your response to the dispatch at that time? You can read the next paragraph.
That there's a police officer? Okay, well, there is a police officer there, but he is drunk. I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you I'm not going to follow him because he's going to cause another accident. So I will stay behind him until an officer can get to us. But until then, I'm not moving.
Right, so you were aware that dispatcher did not want you to continue to follow Mr. Herring, correct?
Sure.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right, and the dispatcher tells you after that, You know that's what I want. I want you guys to go back to the location where it happened, and an officer will be out there momentarily. So that's a fourth time she's telling you again, don't follow and head back to the incident location, correct?
Incorrect.
Okay, so what am I missing?
Ooh, Hannah, what?
She said, which in the transcript it reads differently than what you can hear on the call.
I'm talking about the transcript that's before you, Miss Payne.
I'm just speaking from facts of what I've known.
I'm asking you to
If she could allow the victim to finish answering the question instead of interrupting her.
the defendant is
Give her question.
Oh, sit down, smarmy.
Your response,
the defendant is not responsive to the question. I'm only asking her about the transcript that's in front of her.
So I'm going to overrule the objection, and Miss Payne, you will answer the
Don't look surprised,
questions
smarmy.
posed.
Okay.
You can explain after you've indicated whether she's correct or not correct.
So can you repeat your question?
The dispatcher, for a fourth time, indicated to you that she wanted you to return to the incident location, correct?
Correct. And not for a fourth time, that she wanted me to not follow.
Ooh. Her attitude sucks. Attitude's what got her in trouble.
Okay. You testified that you didn't cut Mr. Herring off on Riverdale Road. You saw him stopped in the turning lane. Is that correct? Is that your testimony?
I said I saw him stopped in the turning lane. And I never used the terminology cut him off. Because in my eyes, I was still in my lane of travel.
It didn't look right to me.
And do you remember telling the detectives on May 7th, 2019, that you got in your Jeep, you followed Mr. Herring, you told the dispatch that you were following him, and she told you that she didn't advise it. She told you to get his tag number. You got the tag number by the time you got to the end, right when I got to Riverdale Road.
Oh, sit
correct?
down.
Your Honor, objection. This is a very long question. If she can break it up, maybe the witness could understand and answer
Oh,
a
come
little bit
on.
clearer.
Your response, Eddie?
And I'm asking her if that's what she said. That's a statement that she would have made to the detectives. I'm asking her, was that a statement that she made to detectives?
Okay, so I overrule the objection. It's not a compound question. She's just asking if that's actually what she said, so I'll allow it.
Yeah, just sit
So
back.
if you're asking me if I remember word for word what I said 4.5 years ago, I can not say that I do remember exactly what I said.
And do you recall that you told them that you came around that curve and you had an opportunity to get in front of him?
If that's what I said, then I don't remember. Like I said, exactly. It was 4.5 years ago. There was hours worth of interview. So
And do you recall telling the detectives that you got in front of him and I stopped in front of him and I got out?
okay.
You recall that?
Again, I don't remember word for word what I said. I would have assumed that I would have explained what happened, which you were able to see in the pictures.
So it's your testimony today that you did not cause him to stop his vehicle?
Correct.
How do I say this? Anna, you're toast.
I'm sure showing you what has been admitted as Defendant 655. Is that your Jeep?
It was.
And do you see how your vehicle is angled toward the red Dodge Dakota?
No, I see his vehicle's angled towards mine.
Oh,
Okay, I can give you a better view.
oh, Hannah.
Showing you what has been previously admitted as State's Exhibit 8. Now, is your vehicle slightly ahead of Mr. Herring's vehicle?
Slightly ahead, yes.
And is your right passenger tire turned towards the right toward his vehicle?
The tire's turned, but the vehicle is not.
Oh, gosh.
And so in order for you to get in that position, you had to turn your steering wheel to the right towards Mr. Herring's vehicle, correct?
Towards the lane.
And his vehicle is in that lane, correct?
At the time, it was further back, so no.
Oh, boy.
So if it was further back, you had to turn your vehicle in front of his vehicle, correct?
No.
So how did you end up in that position?
In this meaning, like with the cars connected or with me?
With you partially in his lane.
With my front tire partially in his lane, my wheel was turned.
And your vehicle was partially there, too. Oh, boy.
Now, you testified that you walked up to him and you were, does it sound like you described it, calmly telling him that the 911 dispatch wanted him to go back to the scene?
Correct.
And telling him calmly that you were on the phone with 911?
When you say calmly, do you mean like was I irate or was I louder?
That is your testimony today that you did not get out of your vehicle and run up to Mr. Herring's vehicle telling him to get out of the car.
Correct.
And you never once got out of your vehicle and go up to him and tell him to get out of the fucking car.
Well, everyone heard I did.
And so at no point on that 911 tape did you ever tell him to stop, go back to the scene.
I did.
And did you hear that on the 911?
Conveniently, no.
Oh, Hannah.
Okay.
Well, so far I would say, my opinion, as far as Hannah testifying, it's great for the prosecution, but not great at all for her in the defense. Oh my goodness. Look at the family. Oh my gosh.
And so I believe you testified that as you were at Mr. Herring's window, his vehicle moved forward towards your Jeep, correct?
I was in the vehicle, but yes, correct.
While that vehicle was moving forward?
Correct.
So do you remember speaking with the detectives? Okay.
What's he looking so smug about? Smug, smarmy. I don't know what you're smug about. You don't really think you're winning this, do you?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may. I'm handing you what's been previously marked as State Exhibit 41, which is a copy of the transcript of your interview with Detective Moore and Detective Haywood.
Can you turn to page 11? The page number will be at the top of the page. Okay. And down at the bottom of the page, where it says your name, and it starts with and.
Yes.
And can you read that paragraph?
And he's just like, who are you? Who are you? I said, I'm no one, but I'm on the phone with dispatch. I'm on the phone with the police. You need to stop. You just caused that accident. And he's like, yeah, okay, I got something for you. And that's when he pulled forward.
And Detective Moore asked you, so at this time, it was just words being exchanged. There was no, he stopped, and then what did you respond?
She stopped, and I responded saying, no contact.
And she responded, no contact at all yet. And what was your response?
Right.
So at the time his car pulled forward, there was no contact between you and Mr. Herring, correct?
This is between the vehicles.
So when Detective Moore said there were just words being exchanged, there was no contact. Is
That's
your
what she
position
said.
that she was just talking about the vehicles?
That's what I would assume, yes.
So words and vehicle?
Yes.
No, it's really.
Your response, if you have
I'll move on, y'all.
I will sustain the objection. You can move on with your next question.
Now, is your testimony today that you've never had your finger on the trigger?
It is.
Can you turn to page 49?
Okay.
All right. Down at the bottom of the page where you see your name and it starts off, I mean. Can you read that paragraph?
I mean, he's almost fully turned by pulling, and I think that was more so just a matter of us kind of going back and forth with him like this. Hannah is showing the position he is in. And he's pulling, and after he tried to pull the trigger, when he came back around is when I had my hand on the trigger, and he still was squeezing, reaching, pulling, turning. But I'm pretty sure that in prior testimony we were speaking of the trigger guard.
And can you turn to page 41?
Okay.
Can you start down where it says your name? I pulled it out.
I pulled it out and I had it up here.
And Detective Hayward asked you where the muzzle was pointed. What was your response?
It's more so pointing sideways.
And he also asked you that he stated so it was not pointed at Mr. Herring, just raised.
Correct.
And he stated ready if you had to pull it.
That's what he states, yes.
And on page 42, and Detective Hayward states that he reaches out with his right hand, so you know there is nothing, no weapon or nothing in his right hand, correct? And what is your response?
Correct, well, yes.
And Detective Hayward asked you because you didn't see no weapons or nothing in his right. And what is your response?
I didn't see anything in his, but he didn't have anything in his hands.
And on page 40, turn to page 40. And at the top, I believe that's your response. And I had my gun in my hand. And Detective Hayward asked you, are you pointing it at him at this time? What was your response?
No, I am not pointing it at him, but I'm pointing it away.
No, reread that. I don't believe that's what that says.
I'm not pointing it at him, but I'm not pointing it away.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Where it goes on to show that I was resting it on the window of the car. As I explained, I was pushing away.
And so your testimony today was all of this could have been avoided, correct?
Correct.
And you also stated that you had no intention or you wasn't trying to interject yourself in a situation that you just got away from, correct?
Correct.
But that's in fact what happened on May 7, 2019.
Interjecting myself twice or initially?
So in the initial incident, your vehicle was not struck, correct?
Correct.
And so there was no reason for you to interject yourself in the final conclusion of what happened with Mr. Herring as far as that incident was concerned.
Well, there's a lot that led up to that. So for me to have interjected myself to begin with was me doing something that I would have wanted someone else to do for me, which was to be a witness for what I thought was an accident.
We didn't have to
And
chase
you're
him
not
down.
post-certified.
No, I'm not.
You're not a police officer.
I'm not.
Nobody deputized you on that day to apprehend anyone.
No, they did not.
And you also stated that you never had any intention of pulling the trigger.
Correct.
So when you told Mr. Herring that you would shoot him, you were just bluffing?
It's not. I wasn't bluffing. I was, as I explained, thinking it was a deterrent, like I would be able to get away.
And you said you had training with this firearm?
Yes.
And in that training, you didn't learn that you don't pull a gun unless you're going to use it?
I learned that you don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're going to use it.
And it was your testimony today in that interview that your finger was on the trigger, correct?
My finger was in the trigger, on the trigger guard, not in the trigger.
Thank you, Evie. I'm sorry. Any redirect?
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney
Oh, Lord, please don't make it long.
Okay, now, they talked about this 911 tape with you. During this 911 tape, as you heard it while you were sitting at the table, did it appear sometimes you were talking over the 911 operator and they were talking over you?
It appeared that way, yes.
Okay. Did it appear that when they were saying one time, we don't want you to chase, we want you to be safe, that you were giving directions at that time?
Correct.
Could that be the reason you did not hear the first or the second time?
Correct.
Now, the state kept saying that they said, don't chase, don't chase. But you recall them saying, be safe and come back to a location, correct?
From my recollection, I remember them telling me not to chase. I told them I wasn't chasing. I was just following behind.
I think you were
She
chasing.
wanted me to be safe, and I told her that I understood that. I had no reason to think that I wouldn't be safe.
Okay. And the last time from you saying, I'm just trying to get his tag, how many seconds went by before 911 came even back on the line to talk to you?
There was a large gap between both times of her originally asking me, can I get the tag? And I said, no, hold on. There was a large gap. And then she asked me again if I was able to get the tag. And there was another large gap.
Right. And I recall hearing you walking at a fast pace to your car, to your Jeep, while they were asking about the tag. So did you get into your Jeep at that time?
Yes, because I was sitting on my passenger side, or standing at my passenger side.
And you were on the phone concentrating to what 911 was saying, correct?
Correct, yes.
Did you hear any outside noise of the state officer telling somebody to take a picture of the tag or to get the tag number?
No.
So you were doing what you were told to or requested to by 911?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the state
Please.
asked you a specific question, and I think you read the transcripts of you never had your finger on the trigger. But isn't it true that the portion you read said your hand was on the trigger?
That's the way that I interpreted it, which is why I tried to explain about the previous statements.
Is your hand different than your finger?
It's a part of.
Okay, but it's different when you're holding a gun to have a hand versus a finger on a trigger.
Look,
Correct.
And do you recall anybody ever coming in there to get fingerprints to check the trigger?
she shouldn't have been holding the gun to begin with. If she wasn't holding the gun, none of this would have happened.
See if there were any fingerprints on the trigger?
No, they never checked for fingerprints. They never took my fingerprints. They never even checked the fact that I had the marks or the ripped shirt or anything like that until way after.
And did you request them to take pictures or to check that, or did someone else?
Detective Moore is who actually asked the photographer to come in after it was brought to her attention.
And you mentioned that they were going back and forth, Detective Moore and Detective Haywood, correct?
Correct.
And was it kind of a good cop, bad cop situation?
In hindsight, yes.
Okay. And did it appear they were looking for a certain answer, or they were changing the words to get that answer?
That's how I explained it. That's how I felt.
Okay. And now you stated that there was no contact, and you stated you thought it was the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Was there any contact with the vehicle
At,
prior to the question they asked?
at that point, there was not.
But was there, had he grabbed you or done anything to you prior to that?
Prior to what are you referencing?
To the vehicle moving forward and hitting your vehicle. And that's the contact you thought they were talking about, correct?
Correct, yes. So when he had a hold, and then once he grabbed a hold of me, after that is when the vehicles hit, which I didn't figure out until after the fact, of course.
Now, it said you pulled it out and possibly had pointed it sideways, but the gun would have been sideways. You stated pushing off of the car, correct?
Correct.
So is that when he grabbed your wrist?
Yes.
So the gun would have been pointing kind of upward or downward, not at him when he grabbed your wrist, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when he grabbed your wrist, he tried to pull the gun into It's cross, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I thought in cross you can ask leading questions or ask questions about what they
You
asked.
redirect. At this point, you're not cross-examining, you're redirecting.
No.
So I will
All right.
sustain the objection.
All right.
as to needed
Oh
question.
dear.
So what was the position of the gun as was asked by the state when it was resting on the floor?
It was in my hand, and I was like this. So it was like towards the steering wheel, I guess, is where the natural position would be until it was grabbed. And then once it was grabbed, it was back and forth, but inevitably in the end, it ended up to where it was being pulled that way, like away.
And you were asked about hearing your voice on the 911 tape. Did you hear your voice saying stop on the 911 tape?
I couldn't hear any of my, what I consider cries for help on the 911 tape.
Do you recall a Cameron Williams that came and testified that had a video?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall after the state had taken him back to refresh his memory, and then he came back to finish his testimony? Do you recall hearing the video?
I do.
What did they say in the video?
You can hear me saying, stop, stop, over and over again.
And the phone was right there, close to you?
It was.
So, obviously it just wasn't loud enough to be on the 911 tape?
I mean, my voice projection didn't change from me yelling from get out of the car to stop. So I don't know how it picked up one and not the other.
And it stated, the state requested that this could have been avoided and asked you that question. Do you recall that?
I do.
How could it have been avoided?
Initially, me not trying to do the right thing, and in the end, I don't know, just trying to stay away from the original scene, put it that way.
Okay. So, you said at the beginning that at the end, it could have been avoided a different way.
I believe if he wasn't trying to take it from me, it would have never went off.
How about if you hadn't have, after you got the tag number, you could have stopped and went to his car and pulled out the gun. Wow, she doesn't own anything. Everything, it's everyone's fault. From poor Mr. Herring to the police, to Cameron Williams, to everybody. She thinks she's really right. And she's gonna, if she rots in that prison, she will rot thinking she's right about all of this. Oof.
And you would have never pulled it had the situation not escalated.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And you told the detectives, as well as the 911, as well as the people around there, you never had your finger on the trigger?
Correct.
And if anything, your hand was on the trigger guard?
Well, that's where your hands rest, is alongside. Yes.
Anything further from the state?
You talked about the fact that it could have been avoided had you not attempted to, I guess, assist or help. But this actually could have been avoided if you not had introduced a gun into this incident, correct?
Thank you.
I introduced the gun to try and save my life.
After
Nothing
you,
further on.
oh yeah, after you chased him down. Doesn't look good for you, Hannah, and your attorney did you no favors. Oh gosh, here we go.
She asked the question to interject herself.
Objection. What is the objection? He's already directed the witness, right? He already redirected the witness.
And you're saying, I think if I could redirect again, what you've done another question, round of question.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
I'm sorry, I have to laugh because he did her no favors.
Obviously, yes, I am.
Sit down and pipe down. Just hush, hush. Oh my gosh. Whew, guys, that was something.
Does the defense have another witness?
Not that should have, there's, Your Honor, no.
Yeah, you have nothing.
Defense rests at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh boy, we rest.
Does the state intend to use any rebuttal witnesses?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Can counsels please approach?
Oh, they're going to use a rebuttal witness. What is that going to be? See, oh no, Hannah's going to weep. Oh my goodness. But really, not introducing the gun. Not introducing the gun. I wonder if her family's like, oh my God. I know I've said this multiple times. Okay, so your opinion now that you've seen it. Do you think it did her any favors to testify, or did it do the defense any favors? And the other question would be, or did it do the prosecution a huge favor? Her attitude, I don't know. She thinks she was right. That's the whole thing. Oh, man. Yeah, I was hoping to see, I don't know what I was hoping to see, but no. Y'all tell me in the comments what you think. I mean, she certainly deserves a fair trial, but, like that, I think it was Judge Malone way back said, get a different attorney. She was right. Yeah, I don't think it would have changed anything. Okay, let's see how long this is going to take them. Okay, so that was actually it for this day. And so we now complete day 4. And the next time we'll be going into day 5, which is when the prosecution has their rebuttal witness. And I think we'll see some more camera footage. I think maybe it'll be Hannah being interviewed or interrogated at the police station. So I'm not sure what else, but this was quite a day to see her testimony and the cross-examination and Attorney Tucker's bumbling and fumbling and just in my opinion, being ridiculous and not thinking he's a great attorney. I mean, it's not a lot to work with, really. I understand, but still, he just has an irritating aura about him. But I'm going to close this down because I'm tired of hearing my very congested, nasally self. And I could even notice when I was like reviewing back through some of the footage, even though I'm sitting there trying to be very quiet, you can still hear my nose, my stuffy nose, and wheezing, and me trying to breathe. And hopefully that's not too much of a detraction. But at any rate, I want to get this out. And I realize it's 3.5 hours long, but it's kind of hard to break up the flow when it's like that. So I hope y'all enjoy it and sit down with some popcorn or whatever it is you like, because it was quite a show, I believe. So at this point, thank you all so much for commenting, subscribing, watching. I really appreciate it. I know this trial hasn't gained a lot of interest. I mean, but enough. But I appreciate those who are here with me on it are dedicated. So that's why I'm dedicated to give it to you, because I really appreciate you all, and I think it's an interesting case. So remember, be kind to one another. Be kind to you. Remember, I love you, and I'll see you the next time.